Rafael Nadal is enjoying a superb year, having won 2 out of the 3 Grand Slams so far. With no Novak Djokovic, he's the favorite to lift the US Open in New York, but he's not exactly happy due to some of the comments passed by American tennis legend John McEnroe. We'll be taking a look at what McEnroe had to say and what Rafa's response was, starting with Rafael Nadal's angry reaction to McEnroe. Nadal was told about McEnroe's comments during a press conference after his first-round win against Rinky Hijikata. The reporter asked Rafa if he was given preferential treatment and whether the comments from McEnroe had any truth in them. It took the Spaniard a minute before he could truly understand and register what the reporter was saying, but once he did, it was obvious that he wasn't happy. He called it a joke, but he wasn't exactly laughing about it. Nadal was fired up as soon as he was asked the question and explained how he'd gone through many warnings spanning his entire career, with most of them being for violation of the time clock. He added that he'd never gotten one for breaking the racket, nice little shot at the next gen, and elaborated that he's got a genuine issue. Rafa pointed out that he sweats a lot and there aren't any ball boys in the game, which makes it difficult to stay within the limit. He said that you have to go to the farthest place on the court to pick up the towel, and you know that it's going to be tight by the time you get back to serve. It's understandable in this case considering Rafa plays at a higher intensity than most players, and sweats a lot more than most players too. The 22-time Grand Slam champion also said that he doesn't believe he gets any preferential treatment. But then again, that's exactly what someone with preferential treatment would say. More importantly, what exactly did McEnroe say? We know that Rafa wasn't too pleased with McEnroe's comments, but what did the former US Open champion say about Rafa? During the Spaniard's first-round match, McEnroe was in the comm box, and he made a simple observation, which many others before him have made, and pointed out how Nadal gets a bit of preferential treatment from the umpires regarding the time clock. That's understandable. Nadal's one of the most fidgety and quirky players on tour, and it's hardly surprising to see him being criticized for this. But it's important to note that McEnroe probably didn't mean it in such a harsh manner, as put by the reporter. Similarly, Todd Woodbridge agreed with McEnroe's observation and explained that Nadal gets a bit of leniency, but went on to say that he's in favor of that happening, especially in these types of warm conditions. Of course, the man's getting absolutely saturated, as Woodbridge added, and if he gets the balls wet in return, it wouldn't be good for anyone, not just Rafa. We think that McEnroe's comments were more or less built around the same premise, and not the way the reporter brought up the problem. Again though, is anyone surprised? It's part of their job to get a fiery response from players, and he got that. Moving on, McEnroe's already followed up on the comments. Before Rafa's rant concluded, he told the media how he'll talk to McEnroe about all this. It's a commonly known fact that the American legend is a massive Nadal fan, so such a comment coming from him was definitely surprising, especially for Rafa. No wonder he felt he could talk to McEnroe about it and sort out what he thought was preferential treatment. But it seems that John wouldn't have to wait for that to happen because he's already addressed the issue. McEnroe was shown the footage of Nadal's furious rant in the press conference, and it's safe to say that Johnny absolutely hated the fact that his comments were taken out of context. He was also angry and exclaimed that he'd been thrown under the bus by the reporter, and explained how he hadn't had that talk with Nadal, but proceeded to call the journalist dumb. John went a step ahead and said that Rafa's entitled to do whatever the heck he wants, because he's earned that after being as good as he's been. Can't say we disagree. Nadal's won more Grand Slams than any other man in the history of the sport, and if he serves a second or two late because of his excessive sweating, it shouldn't be an issue. Come on, it's Nadal we're talking about. McEnroe ended his reaction by saying that you've got to deal with that, especially because it's not up to Nadal to change. Lastly, Nadal starts second round poorly and draws blood, but wins. Maybe the words from McEnroe were still bothering the 22-time Grand Slam winner. We know they weren't, but he didn't exactly start well during his second round match against Fabio Fognini. You'd know that the two don't share a particularly good relationship, and while the respect between them has increased in recent months, there's still a competitive edge in their meetings. Fognini tends to play at the very best against Nadal, and he would have thought he's got him in a pickle when he won the first set. Of course though, Rafa was having none of it, and while he later acknowledged the poor start, his recovery was very Rafa-esque, as he went on to record a straightforward win in 4. But things didn't exactly go smoothly for the Spaniard either. In the fourth set, he was involved in a freak accident, with his racket bouncing off the court as he went for a backhanded shot, and it immediately immediately resulted in a bloody nose. Later, Rafa would explain how he feared that he'd broken his nose, but thankfully the problem wasn't that major, and he returned to action fairly quickly with a cute pink band-aid. That didn't stop him from being ruthless as he wrapped up the set and the match within a few minutes and recorded yet another win in the US Open to progress into the third round. In other news, first up, Rafa Nadal to face Richard Gasquet in round 3 of US Open. It's the clash of the veterans at this year's US Open. The 22-time Grand Slam winner will be taking on Richard Gasquet of France, the 36-year-old who's known for having the most aesthetically pleasing backhand. In terms of style, it's not a great matchup, considering Nadal plays the ugliest tennis you'll ever see. No offense to Rafa fans, but apart from his banana forehand down the line, the Spaniard isn't exactly pleasing to the eye. But that hasn't stopped him from leading the GOAT conversations, so who cares if he doesn't look good while winning? On the other hand, Gasquet's like a painter with a magical backhand, but he's also never won a Grand Slam, so that's all you'd want to know. In fact, the head-to-head between the two 36-year-olds is even more embarrassing. Nadal's never lost to the Frenchman and has 17 victories from 17 meetings. Some would call it embarrassing, but we just say that it's unfair to compare the two. Next up, Nadal's child to be born prematurely. It was revealed by Marca that Rafa Nadal's wife, Mary Pirillo, was hospitalized due to some complications, and the baby could be born prematurely. We can't imagine what Rafa's going through right now, all the way over in New York, and it comes just a few weeks after the couple's announcement of having a baby. Not a lot is known about the baby's health, but we can all pray that things turn out well for the couple and the baby. At the same time, the latest reports from Spain confirmed that the mother and the baby were both out of danger, which is fantastic news, of course, but her situation remains delicate, and that's why she's been hospitalized in Palma de Mallorca. As per La Razón, the doctors don't consider the pregnancy to be an alarming situation, but the family remains concerned, and the doctors too, about the baby's weight, and have told the family to expect a premature delivery as well. All in all, the situation isn't as serious, otherwise we're sure Rafa wouldn't be playing in New York. Ending with potential semi-finalist for Rafa, Carlos Alcaraz, looking sublime. We could potentially see a Spanish semi-final at the US Open this year if both Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz negotiate their way to the last four. That wouldn't be great news for Rafa because Alcaraz seems to be in sublime form in Flushing Meadows this year. It's a happy hunting ground for the Spanish teenage star as he made it to the quarters of the US Open last year and had to retire after struggling with an injury. This time around, Alcaraz seems fitter and has a relatively easier draw and has a lot more motivation to do well as he could potentially fight for the #1 position if things go his way. He's already down 2 Argentinians, Federico Coria and Sebastian Baez, without dropping a set. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Nadal's given preferential treatment by the officials? And if he is, do you think it's fair on the opposition? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.